Lagos and Abuja account for more than 60% of confirmed COVID-19 cases in Nigeria, and the federal government has ordered a lockdown in both states, limiting all forms of movement, including trading.
When we talk about lockdown, we're just reducing person-to-person interaction, congregations, businesses, transportation, and therefore the transmission rate drops. Of course, there's a downside to that, and that is of the impact on the economy, the impact on the freedom of human beings, the impact of the psychology of the community. You lock down, it has serious implications.
Let's understand, what do you think government health institutions should be doing in the form of advocating self-isolation?
It's really just a very difficult thing to come to reality in our environment, in our culture. But this is what it is. We just need to explain to ourselves and say, you know what, I love you from the bottom of my heart, but I just need you to keep 2-3 meters away. So these are some of the things that are new ways, behaviors, norms worldwide that all of us are learning.
The officers had gathered as early as 5 o'clock in the morning. The joint exercise is to ensure the 14-day lockdown is strictly adhered to by residents of the state.
On the 27th of March 2020, Mr. Governor had announced the food initiative distribution drive for Lagos State to give palliatives to the vulnerable, to people living with disabilities in several communities across the state.
Mr. Governor, too, was gracious enough to recognize a very key sector, which is the informal sector. We had to call a meeting of all their leadership yesterday, to which we agree on how to go about distributing. So there's no scam about it.
Sharing Ibite is a fantastic idea. 20 people can they fly in distance.
The lockdown actually affects those who are doing day to day.
We're asked to stay home, but no provision, nothing. People suffered a lot, so.
Oh boy, bros, that's one, it's something that nobody have ever experienced it in this country.
It's not easy to use money to buy this kind of thing in this season, but we thank our governor for bringing this opportunity for us.
We were targeting about 200,000 households, and we're trying to ration dry food, to each one, just for them to have things they can cook and they can serve their family for 2 weeks.
Before the lockdown even started, the Lagos State Ministry of Agriculture had set up markets in neighborhoods.
People doesn't have to travel far to get the essentials, because we brought the trading activities close to the people.
I have a widow in my area who never had food, but she never got anything. In fact, we had to contribute in my area to provide the food for the person. So I think this whole thing is not just right at all.
Lagos State actually did some things to help people, but the people that were in charge of sharing, they were the people that confiscated everything, keep them to themselves. It did not actually go around the way it was supposed to go.
If Lagos State as a government cannot feed everyone on your street, and you feel you have food in your house that you believe is in excess to a reasonable extent, nothing stops you from helping your next door neighbor that you know has no means or wherewithal to feed himself or herself, as opposed to putting the responsibility on the state government to do that.
When we had the lockdown, I started having calls from people soliciting for help to feed their family and all of that. I was able to get to the market to get few basic food items, and it went a long way in making a lot of people smile.
Mr. Nwapali decided to support what the government is doing with the crates of egg to those that are in the hospital.
We've seen a lot of cooperation from private sector, companies that are in food, in beverages.
A lot of my customers cut their hair. When you're in your house and there's no way to make your hair, Elvin will touch your hair, you understand? So just like most of them, their husbands cut their hair for them. Like, oh, just cut my hair, there's no point. And besides, where am I going to?
I have savings, which actually I suppose, reinvest into my business. But since I have no other option, I started, putting hands in my business. And it's actually not too good for me as an entrepreneur.
There are many people that took loans from the bank. You're supposed to pay back, maybe monthly or weekly. Now, it's not there. So government should plan with all these microfinance banks that have given money to people to ensure that, there is some form of maybe suspend the payment and give them 6 months to start paying back.
We need to bring this to the consciousness, not only of our women, of all Nigerians, that COVID-19 is real. You can get infected through contact. You can get infected by rubbing yourself on someone you do not know the health status. And that could spell doom to your family.
A lot of people have died with that mindset that this thing is not real, or that it's a rich man's disease. I didn't travel abroad before contracting it.
He's exposed to patients who have COVID every day. What if he comes down with it? Because no matter how you protect yourself against it, with the gear, people still come down with it. So that was my major concern.
They have to teach me how to walk. That shows how dangerous that virus is.
For 4 days, when I came back from my discharge, it was full of hallucinations, whether at night or daytime. The moment I close my eyes, all those pictures come up. So it registers in your brain.
It was like a bonding period, stressful psychologically, yes, because I'm having to manage the fact that their father is not around. We've not seen him for months, and we're not sure when the whole thing will go down enough for us to see him. And then having the children, monitoring their classes, their online classes. I had to play teacher, mother, still go to work when I was on duty. It was stressful, mentally, yes. Physically, sometimes breakdown, but at least it was manageable.
I did not know how I was revived. All my intake foods was not digesting, and they did a lot of bypass and to extract all the foods from my chest. It was a nasty experience. To God be the glory, I was able to come back.
I had oxygen for 3 weeks, which is unlike what people ordinarily would have. People have oxygen 2 days, 3 days. There were people who were there 2 days, they left. But mine was peculiar. You try to tell your wife things that you feel she should know, just in case you don't make it. So it was more, is this how everything is going to be? It was.
In the first wave, we recognized that we could classify patients into several broad categories. So you had patients that were positive that didn't even know they were sick, what we call asymptomatic. And then there were those that were mild, so they had maybe a bit of a headache, feel a bit tired. And then you had the moderates who would prefer to spend all their time lying down in bed. Perhaps they had a cough, fever. And then you had your severe and your critical. So those are the different categories of this symptomatology of COVID. So at that point, we changed our policy to a combination of home-based care and isolation in an established facility. So we were able to say to people who are asymptomatic or mild, we can manage you at home if your home setting was conducive to isolation.
Lagos State Coronavirus Helpline. Good morning. My name is Olanike. Good morning, Mizu Kayat.
Lagos State provided an avenue for people
to have some level of comfort about the virus, ask questions about the virus, try and understand how the virus impacted us. And if you had symptoms, if you felt sick, you could call in. You'd have people counseling you, talking to you about what the virus was about.
Thank you for the information, Ms. Rukayat.
When we know what the symptoms are, we escalate to the appropriate department. So we had the department called the EVAC and the DECON. We had the EPID and the surveillance team.
And basically what we are doing as a surveillance officer is to make sure we monitor this trend as it is. As soon as we have a tip or a tap, somebody just inform us, we follow up. And as soon as we follow up, we try and investigate.
Any fever, cough, over 2 weeks, running nose, you vomit, don't do anything.
And after investigation, we'll be sure if it is positive or not. If it is positive, we have other team that we immediately call to evacuate.
We set up what we call the Eco Telemedicine, which is a digital platform where we can consult with you virtually.
How are you coping this one? You are sleepless. Why everybody complain about sleepless? That is anxiety. You understand? When you have nobody to talk to, you are thinking of, where am I? You understand? All you need to do is just to calm yourself down, okay?
It's day one of the easing of the partial lockdown in Africa's most populous black nation, Nigeria. And Lagos, one of the most busiest cities in Africa, is back to the usual hustling and bustling.
We went through the peak of the first wave in July, August, and the containment strategy of Lagos was working, and the number of people who were infected started to decline. After the first wave, we were admitting 4 or 5 patients a day. It was very low occupancy. So we decommissioned everything else, and we maintained IDH as the main isolation center for Lagos.
We are doing community sensitization day in, day out. Every opportunity of group of people, we sensitize.
We, the traditional rulers, have been able to tell our people how I have gone through it, so that experience is the best teacher.
If we are telling them, because we are working with government, they feel that you are on the government side. But if their own people, people that are with them, are telling them, they can influence them more.
You know, say corona, if they kill small, if they kill big, if they kill rich man, if they kill poor man, you don't know anybody.
The communication strategy has been up, down first, but we're making sure that they can own it, at that lower level.
Resilience is the only reason why a city or a nation will not fall. It's the only reason why Lagos State as a state is not falling, is not succumbing. It is combating and responding to various variants of this virus.
We cannot wait for this thing to blow over. We do not have that stimulus to be able to say, like in developed countries that say that we have the capacity to hold off for like a month or 2 months. No, it certainly wouldn't happen. So we need to be able to strike the balance very quickly, between having, a hunger-stricken population and running away from a disease, that is a pandemic. So that conversation needs to happen, and we need to be able to balance it very quickly. And we're checking it. We're looking at ourselves. We're not bringing out rules that it is into perpetuity. We need to review it almost on a daily basis.
The civil disruption that happened around the NSARS protests, and we were not able to manage patients, we were not able to manage our data.
It's not a domesticated disease. It's something that is going to be imported.
People can get through the system being positive and not being picked up, or you're incubating the virus. Your test is negative, but a few days later you start to manifest